Bill Maher gets destroyed by a scientist on his own show as he continues to incessantly push his climate change propaganda. Guys, this is going to be a fun video. I know you're going to like it. This whole climate change debate is really quite ridiculous to me, frankly. It seems that the only argument the left ever has on it is bullying other people and shaming them until they just shut up and go along with their agenda, all while yelling, "Science, science!" Where have you heard that one before? Or should I say after, given that it started significantly after climate change, namely a certain thing that rhymes with Ovid. I'm not going to say the word just in case. So we're going to get right into it, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. But first, everybody, do me a big favor here and help me out. Like our video, share it around, and if you're new, subscribe to the Resistant Mainstream YouTube channel. And for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it. Why subscribe, you might ask? It's real simple, guys. The more subscriptions we get, the more we keep this content coming. So thank you so much. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian. Let's get into the show.
I'm going to show you some of the data that actually indicates this is a problem, but it's not the end of the world by any means. So there's two of the world's leading climate economists. One is Richard Tull, one of the most quoted climate economists from this year, and the other one is William Nordhaus, the guy who got the only Nobel Prize in climate economics. They both made estimates across all the different estimates of how bad is climate change going to be. By the end of the century, at a 3 degrees centigrade or 5.4 degree Fahrenheit temperature rise, the cost is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3% of GDP.
But what will the ocean look like? I mean, I'm not talking about oceans rising. I'm talking about oceans dying. And the world can't live without dead oceans. And it seems like they're in bad shape between all the plastic in them. They're overfished. I mean, there's many places have no fish left at all. They're too acidic. Coral reefs, I know you've talked about, oh, that's exaggerated. Tell me about why you think the coral reef problem is exaggerated.
That's just the data. So can I just finish the other point
I
was trying to make before we go on to the coral reefs? So 2 to 3% of global GDP is a problem. But remember, by the end of the century, the UN estimate the average person on the planet will be 450% as rich as he or she is today. So that means instead of being 450% as rich, we will feel like we're only 435% as rich. Yes, that's a problem. No, it's not the end of the world. On the coral reef bit.
Rich.
So,
how does rich fix the ocean?
No. So on the coral reefs bit, we have a situation where we have on Great Barrier Reef, so the world's biggest coral reef, the Australian Marine Scientific Institute, sorry, I can't remember what they're called, but they're the guys who do the data every year on the coral reef.
You know who else loves pushing the climate hoax? Joe Biden, and apparently creating terrible economies too. This inflation is nuts, guys, and that is why I have decided to partner with Goldco. Goldco is a great company, guys. They are highly rated, great customer service. They offer the white glove treatment, and we cannot recommend them enough. And you have a great opportunity to invest with them. So check it out. Go to rtmgold.com. You can click the link in the description or type in your web browser. You can roll over your IRA or 401k, penalty and tax free. Yes, you heard that right. Penalty and tax free. Not only that, but you can get a free gold kit. Yes, a free gold kit to help you make this big decision, because we know it is not a small one to make. Check it out, rtmgold.com. You can click the link in the description or type in the web browser. That's rtmgold.com.
Reef since 1986. And they have been assessing what is the total outcome of how good does the reef look like. And in 2009 to 2012, we thought it was terrible. It was really dramatic. The Guardian wrote the obituary for the Great Coral Reef.
I know.
And the point I've just been making is the last 3 years, they've been at the highest level, the most coral reef we've ever seen in those areas. And so the point is not that there's not a challenge for coral reefs. There is. But most of the challenge comes from overfishing, from industrial pollution, from sea runoff. And those are the kinds of things that we should fix. But we're not being well informed if we're being told this is because of climate change, so we got to change our entire infrastructure and our global economy in order to save the oceans, when it's not actually what's going to happen.
Maybe. Well, and why do we imagine, as we treat the oceans ever worse, that the coral reefs are enjoying it more now?
Look, I don't think that they're going to enjoy this.
But why are they doing better in the last 3 years? It's not like we did anything.
I don't know.
Oh, well, there we
So,
go.
look-
All right. As long as we're... That's honest. We don't know.
Another thing I've also noticed about this crazy climate change agenda where people are just freaking out about it is they're always vilifying CO2. You notice that? Or carbon, either or. We need less carbon emissions, lower your carbon footprint, et cetera, et cetera. People don't shut up about it, whether it's the so-called scientists, the corporations, the politicians. You're always hearing this incessant whining about carbon. Oh, carbon. It's so evil. Really? Is it though? I don't know about that one, guys. If you look historically, when the Earth had far more CO2 than it does now, but there wasn't any climate change back then, apparently, according to the left, we actually had a greener planet. Think about why that is. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that carbon dioxide is literally plant food. Plants use it to feed themselves and then turn it into oxygen. Yet, CO2 is so vilified and it's killing the planet? Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying that. I really don't know if I'm buying that. But enough about that. Let's go back and see more of what Bill Maher has to say about it.
It's also, I mean, from my point of view, the Republicans, they don't believe in climate change and the emergency of that.
Is that a generalization?
That's pretty true.
Is they all
The
of them don't believe in
Republicans,
climate change?
well, they certainly don't act like they do.
What do they believe if they don't believe in climate change?
They for years they put up one bullshit talking point after another that they knew was false. Like they would get a hold of a Newsweek from 1982 that had a cover story that said the Earth is cooling. Oh, look, the Earth is cooling for now it's heating. Well, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Or they would take one data point on the timeline, like there was because it doesn't go in a straight line, climate, if you measure it year by year, but we see the trend. So they would take like 1998, I think, was a year when it was exceptionally hot. And then it went down again. And so look at the line, and you can draw a graph to make it look like.
Does anyone understand what Maher is even babbling about? Because for most of it, I just don't even get what he's saying. He's just meandering on about different things that makes no sense. And it's not a coherent argument in the slightest. What I will say to Bill, where he points out that many Republicans and conservatives, whatever you want to call them, very correctly highlight that at one point the left was talking about global cooling and then it became global warming. And the whole thing there is, well, what happened to the global cooling? Yeah, that is a good point, Bill. And simply repeating it in a mocking manner, as you just did, it doesn't really change that it's a good point. You're not disproving it by saying, oh, well, the cooling and the heating, Yeah, do you have an actual response to it? Clearly not, because all you can do is repeat it with a silly tone. Just saying. Also, does anybody notice that very Orwellian and weird change in language we've observed over the years? First, it was global cooling. Global cooling was such a problem. It's humans' faults, blah, blah, blah. Then it became global warming. And then, looky, we get record global cooling. What happens? The left says, no. Enough with all this climate change. Isn't that convenient? They have all these different terms, and then when they finally just get proven wrong and look stupid enough times, they just say, well, it's changing, it's always changing. And when it's changing, it's bad and humans caused it. Really? Here's a simple question you should always ask a leftist, and I guarantee you they're never gonna have a good answer for it. Okay, let's say humans do contribute to climate change. How much of it is the fault of humans? Tell me. And then watch as they either slip up in their words, get confused, or just get angry and call you a climate denier. Not a real thing, by the way. Nobody denies the climate, all right? I walk outside, I see the sun, that's the climate. It's hot today. It drops, the climate cools a bit. I don't think anybody denies that. Just saying.
It is, if you don't think it's happening and it's an emergency, now what we do about it is a different story. But for years, they just denied it. They went right from denying it to, okay, well, it's happening, but now it's too late. So look, we are all just going to enjoy it. I've said it many times. America and the world in general has decided we are Thelma and Louise. We're holding hands and we're just driving off the Grand Canyon. And as long as we're doing that, I'm not going to be the only one who's not having a good time with the Earth. But, anyway, my point was they don't believe in really what emergency that is, and they also don't really believe in democracy anymore. So I do think the Republicans at this moment are worse. I think they've always been worse. And
Republicans don't believe in democracy, but apparently Democrats do, according to Bill. Is that why they just ousted Joe Biden and then stuck in Kamala Harris, who was so bad and unpopular that she couldn't even win the Democrat primary for her own state back in 2020? Is that who the party of democracy is? It's so insane.
completely unsavable unless they switch on that. Whereas the Democrats, I think, are savable, even though they're so fucking goofy. And when people say, you never used to make fun of the left as much, because they didn't give me the material. And now they're so ridiculous on so many things that as a comedian, of course, I'm going to go where the material.
I don't know what Bill is talking about, saying that the left was never goofy, but whatever. Hey, you know what? Better a little criticism than none, I guess. But at the end of the day, he's a Democrat at heart, and he will be voting Kamala Harris in 2024. Make no mistake. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. As always, please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked about the video, what kind of content you want to see in the future, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, and God bless.